Hey guys, and welcome back to Baseline Full Court Press, the podcast where women's basketball gets the spotlight, the smoke, and the respect. I'm your host, Patience, and today we will be starting a four-part series called Overseas and Overlooked. A lot of people wonder why WNBA players choose to go overseas on their off season. Is it a choice or is it survival? Today, we'll be getting into the reality of their salaries, what it does to their career timeline, who has to go and who does not have to go overseas, and last but not least, common misconceptions. Generally speaking, there are multiple countries in Europe that have basketball teams. They are probably the biggest market overseas, and on average, they do offer their players about $60,000 to $500,000 per season. Now, keep in mind that the EuroLeague does have a longer season, which could run into conflict with the WNBA teams. Now, that is why a lot of players do choose not to go to the EuroLeague because that messes up their money when they go home. And certain countries in Asia, such as Japan or South Korea, they do offer about $120,000 to $400,000 per season. And one of the major upgrades for salary comes from China. They do have a range on average that they pay players from $1 million to $4 million, but you do have to be the top of the top. And last but not least, Russia has been historically known to pay WNBA players way above their WNBA wages. Now, that has all come to a kind of a dead end because of safety concerns since Brittany Griner, and also there is a war going on. Now, what does these players going overseas have to do with their career timeline? Truth be told, the WNBA player's career timeline is very fragile. The average WNBA player's career only lasts about 3 to 4.5 years. And to put that in perspective for you, there are only about 10 WNBA players who have reached over 15 years or 15 years at the minimum. Did you think I wasn't going to name them? Because I am. Because I am. And they're going to be all players that you guys know. And that just shows you how little of wiggle room that these ladies have for an elongated career. So let's start off strong with Tina Thompson, 17 seasons. Keep in mind, she did start playing when the league first started. So, yeah. Then we have Becky Hammond, 16 seasons, Delisha Milton Jones, 17 seasons, and we have Sue Bird, 20 seasons, Diana Taurasi, 20 seasons, Candice Dupree, 15 seasons, Candice Parker, my fave, 16 seasons, Dewana Bonner, 16 and counting. Shout out to Dewana Bonner, she is still going. And last but not least, we have Nneka Ogwumike. She has 15 seasons under her belt. Very short list, I know. Long term is not really an option for a majority of these ladies, which is why a majority of them do choose to go overseas. And that doesn't include just average small players who sit on the bench. That includes big names, Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird, Brittany Griner. They all went overseas in their prime. And that should say something. So while going overseas helps players, it also hurts them. With the current WNBA contracts that they are receiving, they cannot afford to think 10 years from now, okay, if I make this much money, okay, I can get that and I can retire on that. They're thinking, first of all, the WNBA has probably the highest turnover rate. I don't know if it's still called a turnover rate because it's the WNBA, but like a regular 9 to 5 is turnover rate. Like, restaurants have high turnover rates. Like they get rid of people, hire people just like that, just like that. So they're thinking one misstep, one injury, and yes, injuries can happen over all kinds of sports, but the difference between those other sports is that they have financial security, something that the WNBA does not have. So the players' mindsets are more of I have about 5 to 7 real years of making funds and I need to make it count. When your career timeline is short, every offseason matters. They have to play as much as they can when they can. It is not a waiting game. Last season, over half of the league went overseas during the offseason. That's about 70 players out of 144. And also to put that in perspective, for players who do go overseas and come back, they do have less appeal when it comes to the WNBA because you could be hurt, you could be fatigued. There are a lot of instances where they just don't know when you come back what you're going to play like. What determines who has to go overseas and who can manage without going overseas? Essentially, players who cannot live off of their WNBA wage. But I say that with a slight because just because they are not hooping overseas does not mean that they are not working in the States. They are collecting brand deals, doing interviews, they are doing fashion runs, they are making money on top of money by being the brand themselves, right? So even though Asia Wilson is top of the top right now, She would not be able to survive on her WNBA salary alone. She needs her endorsement deal. She needs her shoe deal. She needs all of those things to put her in the predicament and the situation that she is currently now blessed to be in. Let me just break it down real quick for you guys. The WNBA is a summer league. It goes from about like May with training camp all the way to what, like end of September, October maybe? Guys, what are they supposed to do after the fact? Everyone has to supplement their off-season income in some kind of way. Sometimes they do endorsements because they want to. Sometimes they do them because they have to. You get my drift? You get my drift. Whatever keeps the lights on, okay? Okay. Now, let's get into these misconceptions for overseas because I have been dying to talk about it for a hot minute, okay? Number one, coming in hot is there's no talent overseas, so it's no reason for them to go overseas to not get better because they don't play against real competition. Boo, 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 lame. Okay, this is how I feel about it. Now, while there is not a pool like the WNBA, there's not a pool of players that they play against like in Unrivaled, the best of the best. But there is still a pool. They're not just letting anybody who cannot play basketball on teams. It's not like they're letting random 25 to 27-year-olds on their overseas teams. That's not how it works. There is talent. There is also the aspect of getting coached on a different level, getting coached from a different aspect that can help your game. Any kind of play helps your game. Let me just say that. Any kind of practice, play helps your game. Now, is it up to the WNBA players to not get lazy because they don't have as much competition? Yes, it is. But at the end of the day, Kalani Brown and Camila Cardoso were literally just having to post up a, what, like 7-footer girl? Like, and that's, so you mean to tell me like that's no competition? There's no 7-footers in the WNBA. Right? So it does give them an advantage and it does help them, show their skills, and it helps them anchor down. It helps them anchor down on what they actually need to work on and exactly what will help them and translate over to the WNBA. Like, come on, guys. The WNBA is not the only place that you can get adequate competition. I hate to say it. And overseas is way more physical than the WNBA. Now, this could be a con or it could be a pro because he can come back over here and knock people out and you're like, oh my God, that was a foul? Yes, Camilla, that was a foul. But it just toughens everybody up for the season. Next misconception is that going overseas is optional and it can be for leisure. No. Going overseas is very demanding on the body. First of all, time zone changes. Whew, no one loves to deal with those. Second of all, they just got done playing in their WNBA season where they play their hearts out just to come down wherever they're going or go up wherever they're going and play their heart out again for another 3 to 4 months. That is very demanding. Overseas has back to back to back games. So for some players, it is mandatory to stay relevant. Earlier, I talked about how their appeal can lose value once they come back from coming overseas. And that is just simply because there are too many unknowns. There are too many unknowns. A lot of people do believe that there are not that there, a lot of people do believe that there isn't talent over there. A lot of people do believe that people go over there just to get money and they get lazy because their competition is not like they had in the WNBA. But the facts are that that is not true. Playing overseas is not a vacation. As much as we would like it to be, it is a job. Let me break down the seasons for you so you understand how physically and mentally demanding it can be to go overseas. Some people even play in 2 different teams overseas. Right. Okay. So the WNBA goes from mid-May to late September, early October, right? Summer. It's kind of like fall, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean. So Unrivaled starts from January to March, but they do have roster limitations. And they do already have people that they want and that they have established with Unrivaled. So there is that as well. So that takes some spots off of the table. Things like Unrivaled and things like AU, they do help a lot, but it does not eliminate the need to go overseas for most WNBA players. The European League starts in October, right? The WNBA season ends in October. If you go to playoffs, Europe starts in October, okay? And they end in like April and May. I did tell you guys earlier that the European League is much longer than all of the other leagues, and most people do not go play in Euro leagues because it is such a scheduling conflict. Although the money is great and the money is there, it's just not worth the risk. All these ladies have been wanting to play in the WNBA their whole life. They're not. They didn't grow up like, oh, I want to play in the WNBA because I want to make millions of dollars, and that's the only reason. No, they want to play basketball with the organization that they grew to love. China starts in late October. They go through February or early March, but they have high pay and a very short season. So a lot of players do choose to go to China. Russia, historically high pay, but currently it's just a dead end for us. Australia, November to March, they are a very competitive league. They do have good development. People have been known to go to Australia and come back a dog. So I'm just saying. So yes, this is year-round basketball that some of these ladies are playing, and they still go back to the WNBA and play their freaking heart out for probably half of what they earn overseas. And the last misconception is that every WNBA player that goes overseas makes a ton of money, millions even. No, that's not true. Simply put, it's really not true. Often, a lot of overseas teams only want about one or two imports on their teams. So, if you think about all of the 70 players that went overseas last season, and the overseas teams only wants about one or two imports, the options are very slim. That means that they have to utilize every offseason that they can. All right, guys, and that will conclude episode 1 of Undrafted. Wait, undrafted. Who's undrafted? Oh my gosh. And I did just want to start off this series by giving you guys some information on going overseas because a lot of people don't understand what that means for most players. A lot of people don't understand the pay matter of it. A lot of people don't understand why these WNBA players choose to go overseas year after year after year, even with these new emerging leagues coming up. So, hopefully, that gave you guys some insight. Be sure to tune into this series' second episode where we go over what leagues actually matter overseas. Not saying that all of them don't, but some leagues are not equal. And we'll be getting into that and what's the difference in between domestic? Who knows? Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I do appreciate you guys coming back week after week, my fellow supporters. Even if you see me on TikTok, on Instagram, on YouTube, be sure to follow, subscribe, like, comment, share, all the good stuff because your fellow sports girlie needs it. Thank you.